Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk with Tia and Jill. We are so happy to have you today on Monday morning.
Yes, thank you for kicking off your week with us.
Yes, yes. And if you are new here with us, welcome. Welcome to Real Talk by Catalyst Food Leaders. This is where we have honest conversations to lead people forward in food. So I am Tia, this is Jill, and today's episode is all about 6 shifts food leaders can't ignore in 2026.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this because I think when we're in the food industry, we get so caught up in just the day to day, trying to get everything done, that
Mhm.
sometimes we need just this moment to pause and look like at the bigger picture. Like what's
Yes.
happening? What do we need to consider in the next 6 months, 12 months?
And going into the new year is a great time to do it,
Of course it is.
right?
It like just goes together.
It does. It does. And, I think as we think about just the different labor dynamics we're having, leadership demands, like you said, we have a
Mhm.
lot going on. We need to stop and pause and think about how do we lead differently so we can move forward and do things differently in 2026 so that, like most people, right, we get to the end of the year and we're like, we're in the same spot we were in at the beginning of the year, or we haven't made the type of progress that we hoped we would make.
Yeah, and I think this is all about, it's also about business risk
Mm.
because when we think about hiring talent, retaining talent, growing talent, like these aren't just trends that are, ooh, that's cool to have and kind of flashy and shiny object over there. But
Yeah.
these are the things when you think about how do I build my team? How do I be a better business partner?
Yeah.
These are the things that flow into it.
Absolutely. So we're talking about that today, right?
Mhm.
Like, what are some things as a leader as you prepare to go into the new year? What are six? We just have 6 top things,
Mhm.
right, to kind of think about as you prepare for the new year.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. So, are we going to dive right in?
Yeah, let's dive right in. Typically, we have a what's trending topic, but I did not do one this week, so
It's
we
okay because
we
these
don't.
are trending, all six of these.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So we'll jump right into our topic, which really the first shift is really around belonging and the fact that belonging is a business strategy.
It is, we talk about this all the time. Like, how do you create safe spaces? How do you make sure people feel like they matter and they're heard? But to think about this as an actual strategy is next level.
Yeah, it really is. And I feel like the organizations that get this right, they're not complaining about retention the way that the rest of the industry is, right? They're not complaining about not having the right talent. They have the right plans in place, right? People stay because they feel like that they belong there.
Yeah. Not trying to compare like your work team to a family team because that's not my favorite analogy when people talk about like why you show up to work. But
Mhm.
I'm going to play on the whole part about, right? They always say in a family, there's like the black sheep, the
Yeah,
person who's kind of like on the outs that doesn't really belong. They don't get
yeah,
to be included. They're not in the fold. They're not thought of. They don't feel like they matter. Like,
yeah.
you don't want people on your team to feel like that
Right,
because
exactly.
the people who are together are the ones who are willing to pitch in. They're
Mhm.
excited. Not maybe every day, but they are like, we're in this. Like, we're
Yeah,
committed.
yeah. And think about like the people just thinking about, I'm the black sheep of the family, or people feel like they're the black sheep of the family. Like they're not as engaged, right? They're not as
No.
engaged. They're not, making the holiday list. They're not going shopping. They show up when they feel like they must, and that's it, right? They
Mhm.
really don't add to the dynamic. And that's not really what you want on a team.
No, and I think this is one of those things this year has really gotten some attention in the news and in the US here in the administration because there's been a lot around DEI that has been shifting.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
even though DEI is shifting, like what I would love people to take away is it's evolving. Like
Yeah,
DEI and belonging are like peanut butter and jelly
yeah, yeah.
put
And
together. And the more you can think about how these all fit together, this is what creates magic in your team when you don't
mhm.
have everybody who looks the same, thinks the same, does everything the same. Like
Yeah.
having people belong is powerful.
And I think the foundations of diversity, equity, and inclusion has been here for a long time, and organizations that value it and that have actually invested in it,
Mhm.
they see the benefits of it as a business strategy, right? And it is a part of their business strategy and growth. Because here's the thing: we sell food to everyone, right?
Right.
And it's important. It's those things that are important. And belonging is something that started to come up, even being, becoming a part of the acronym of DEIB. And it's because of exactly what you're talking about, where when people feel like that they belong, cultures thrive. And not
Mhm.
just, I'm here, I want to be here, but they're engaged, they are having conversations, and you actually get better business results when people feel like that they belong. And so you're right. I think it evolves over the years. Someone had said, if anyone, I think it was Larry Keener. If anyone knows Larry, if you don't, then you should. Within the food
Look
safety
him up.
space, yes. But he kind of talks about how DEI has how it evolves like every 20 years or so, and a lot of it is being driven by politics. But what we see is that on the end of it, it comes back different, but it comes back stronger because really businesses see it as valuable because they need their cultures to survive, right? Like they need people to feel like that they belong because they need people to show up, right? They need people to show
They
up and do
do.
that work.
Yeah. In fact, we have a stat here. Harvard Business Review says that studies show teams with high belonging see a 56% increase in job performance and a 50% reduction in turnover. That's pretty
That,
significant in this
yes,
industry where we've been plagued with turnover.
yes. I mean, just
Plagued.
imagine if you had a 50% reduction in turnover.
Hmm.
Right. Most people listening will be like, yes, I will take that any day. Because, like you said, turnover has plagued really the industry over the last few years.
Right. But even just the increase in job performance too, right? The
Mhm.
people you already have here all do more together.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
you don't need to go hire more people. Don't need different systems. You just need to leverage the people that you have.
And I like to say, right, like that takes leadership skill to be able to do that, to be able
It
to connect
does.
with people and build that trust and build the safe spaces.
Yeah. So, I think as if I'm, being in the seat that I'm a leader, and if you're in the food industry, you're a leader, regardless of the seat you're in.
Yes.
But, it really may be beneficial for you to think about like what systems or behaviors in your company or in what you're doing are making people feel like they belong or don't.
Mm, yeah. That's a really good question, right, to think about. And as you go into 2026, ask yourself that question, right?
Hmm.
Explore it and sit with it, and really explore, what systems. I like too the way you put it. What systems, or behavior. So it might be your behavior, or it might be a system that you're upholding.
Hmm.
Mm,
Yep.
mhm.
Pause
Okay.
and think about belonging.
Yes. Yes. The first shift.
Yep.
The
All
second
right.
shift is the rise of intentional generalist.
I know that's a mouthful, isn't it? Yeah. I think this one is really powerful as well because, especially in our area, right, we've spent a lot of time in food safety and quality. And it seems like in the food industry, people like to be kind of like hyper specialized.
Yes.
Like, I do this and I do it really well. And I know all the things about this one thing. But as a leader, and I think this is one of the challenges that we see in functional areas in food. I'm not going to pick on just food safety and quality, but right,
Yeah.
we know our area so well that we need to really be intentional about looking at other areas and understanding, once again, how do we fit as business partners?
Yes.
Because it's
Yeah.
not about us, it's about everybody.
That's such a good point. When I think about different cultures, the cultures that struggle are more in silos, right? They really don't collaborate as well across the aisles, right? In other places, where, like you said, they're really focused on, this is what I do, right?
Mhm.
Like, even as we think about, some clients that we work with, if we walk in and people are like, this is mine, that's not mine,
Mhm.
right? We automatically see, okay, there's some collaboration issues happening on the team and across functions, because people feel, this is mine, right? I'm going to keep this. This is yours. You go and do that.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to not mistake this for understanding your responsibilities. Like
That's
these are two different things, right? The things that you're responsible for are you do need to hang on to. Those are your
mhm,
things. You're
mhm.
accountable for those. You're responsible for getting those done. This is that next level of of how you work together,
Yes,
of how you view your work integrating with others or understanding its impact across functions.
yes, yeah.
So, this intentional generalist is someone who has that vision, who has the ability to step back and go, how does this impact in other places?
Mhm, mhm. And like you said, you're able to lead at a different level. It reminds me of, I don't know why I knew so much about our warehouse management system, but quality is really connected to it. It's the way that, we put product on hold and how we release and all those type of things. And I remember we had someone in our supply chain team or logistics team, and she was walking through, like, how does the warehouse management system works, and we were kind of talking about it, and she was explaining it wrong. And I said, I I don't think that's the way it works. It works this way. Let me show you. And I actually taught her, how to use the system in a way. And she's like, oh, okay. I didn't realize that. But for me, it's really important, right, that she knew how to use the system from a food safety and quality standpoint. But it allowed me to be able to lead in a different way, a different
Mhm.
person, right, in a different space. And now, right, like, we have this commonality. We're able to talk. She's able to ask me more questions because she knows I will help her along the way. And so, even when we think about this sense of belonging and being able to collaborate across silos, no, making sure that you can reach across the aisle, whether it's learning about different things, whether it's listening to different conversations, whether it's being curious about what's happening, it allows you to lead in a very different way when you know just a little bit to have conversations.
Mhm. And I think, we have a big audience that's food safety quality professionals. And one of
Hmm.
the things that I always talked with our teams and even our clients, right, about is we are, if you're in this function, you're in a unique position because a lot of what you do does already touch other areas.
Yes, it does.
So that's pretty amazing in itself. And we know
Mhm.
that's a big load to carry. So in 2026, when you think about like, how does this apply for you? You know, think about where are the spaces that you maybe are like, oh, we're checking the boxes, getting things done as I work across teams.
Yeah.
Where are spots where you can pause and go, am I inviting people in?
Yes.
How am I making sure people know that they matter in this space versus like that's just their job to do it?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's going to make a difference on how you think about you know, um, success across roles, across teams, even across, priorities.
Mhm. Mhm. And when you think back, right, this hyper specialization, it used to be the gold standard.
Hmm.
But as we move into 2026, leaders who can connect the dots across roles and departments and priorities will be key to unlocking innovation and ultimately
Yes.
growth, right?
Yes, exactly.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yep. So shift number three,
Yes, yes,
right? But this, I love this one because we totally get behind this one as well. But like upskilling is your culture.
yes, yes.
Like, I don't think that's something that people often think about, but when you think we are in a growth mindset organization, that includes upskilling and growth, not
Mhm.
just innovation in products.
Yes.
Innovation in products is not the same as upskilling culture. I want to be
I feel like
clear.
that should be framed, right? Because I think organizations think a lot about, like, okay, in order to growth, we need to innovate, innovate, innovate. But they
Hmm.
leave really their people behind, where
Hmm.
eventually you're going to be obsolete, right? You're not going to be able to innovate. You're not going to be able to grow if you don't upskill your talent, if you don't continuously invest in your talent, and not just like a one-off training,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like some organizations we run into, it's like a one-off. Oh yeah, we do this one time, or like, oh, I love talking to people, and they're like, oh yeah, I took a leadership course maybe about 5 years ago. Look how much has changed in 5 years. Like we have
Right.
seen the most change in 5 years. So if you're listening and you're one of those people that's like, I haven't taken a leadership course in 5 years, you're behind, right? You're behind. You don't have the necessary skills you need in order to lead effectively today.
Yeah.
That's just what the data says because of how quickly things are changing in industry right now.
Yeah, not just things, but people. I mean,
People,
we have people constantly coming in and shifting. And, sometimes when we talk about building the skill, once again, it's not about you, it's about
yeah.
how do you build space for those around you.
Yes.
So
Yes.
upskilling has the benefit of you get to learn, but you also get to work on some of those other shifts we've talked about, like belonging.
Right, exactly. It
Hmm.
frees you up to have this higher level thinking, right? And strategy
Yeah.
around the business, around the
Yeah. And,
business.
and it's like there's opportunities at every turn. We
Yeah.
think about in our organizations, we have annual training for safety, and annual training for food safety, and annual training for HR. Like we all know those can get really dry. And
Yeah.
I know people that are sponsoring those really try to go, how do I shake this up? How do I provide something different? So, another way to think about that is instead of just doing training for training, like how can you add in something around some new skills that people might be needing in your organization that maybe you
Mhm.
haven't been able to address as much before?
Yes, yes. I used to think about training as like, okay, what are the things I have to do? That's a part of either compliance or, I need to cover this so that we can check it. It's like the checkbox, right? But
Hmm.
then what are some things that I need to upskill my team or to provide more value? Or, I never let a training go by that I wasn't trying to make some type of connection there, some type of conversation, right? Sometimes it's more around like, oh, I need to understand what's really going on behind it. Sometimes it's like, I just want to know, what are people thinking? Right? What are
Hmm.
people thinking? Do they feel like they belong? Do they feel like they're having issues? What's top of mind for them? And I like the way you put that, where we know we have some training that we have to do, right? That's just a part of the industry that we live in. But how are you embedding this learning into the way that you do work, right? Into the way that you show up every day, into your culture, because that's the meaningful times.
It is. And I think it's also within this shift is also kind of I'm going to say a generational mindset shift.
Mm.
Because I would say, and I'm part of this 50-year-old generation and above, right? Where it's like, we're just getting through what we need. We don't need extra training. Like
Oh,
we're
yes.
doing our thing, right? No news is good news. We're that generation
Hmm. Hmm.
or, on the cusp of those. But we all know from all the data shows that the newer generations coming in, like they want to be in places where it is about growth.
Yes.
They are not coming to be in a spot where they're like, I get to go work for a couple years, and even if I make a boatload of money, like if I'm not growing, that's not the place for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
It's
you
it's
think of,
true.
yeah, so upskilling and culture, upskilling as a culture isn't just about like, gosh, people, they just want to grow. But like, if you want to attract talent and retain that talent, like you need to think about how this is a core strategy in what you're doing as a
Hmm.
leader.
Yeah, even LinkedIn Workplace Learning Report for 2024 said that companies that invest in skill building are twice as likely, 2 times as likely to retain top talent.
There you go.
Right? Like that's just investing in those skills and leadership skills, right? In order to
Mhm.
lead. And we've seen it, right? When a high performer or someone that is doing so well at their job move into a leadership role and do not do well, right?
Mhm.
Not a good fit. And we've seen those people go to another organization and do extremely well because that organization invested in them. So we see it, and I'm sure people have been listening to us today. Like you hear, right? You hear, and you personally have seen times that this has happened, or maybe it's even happened to you, where it's if you just had those skills ahead before, right, you'll be able to do so well at your role. But as an industry, unfortunately, we're in this path of like pushing people in roles, but not giving them the skills that they need in order to be successful.
Hmm. Yeah. So, when you look across your team, like what skills and opportunity for growth have you not been addressing?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
it's important for leaders to ask themselves that
Yeah.
question as they go into the new year.
And think about how it connects to the broader strategies of the organization. In the next year or 5 year, some organizations have 25-year goals out there. Use that information and think about, yeah, what leadership skills do you need
Hmm.
in the future, and how do I start building that?
Hmm.
Hmm.
All right. Shift number 4. Ah,
Yes, really.
output to outcome.
Yes. I love this shift because we think so much about outputs versus thinking about the type of outcome we want to have and how we want and how are we going to sustain that outcome. It's almost like
Mhm.
the output, I want this audit score, or I want these amount of cases made, or I want, right, like all of that is just outputs. But really to think about like what outcome do we really want, like what are we actually trying to achieve, what type of culture do we want to have.
Yeah, right. This is the classic like build a solid process and you'll get what you're hoping to make every time.
Mm-hmm.
Same
Mm-hmm.
thing. It's just here when we think about focusing on outcomes, as a leader, it's thinking about more about people and how they're feeling and their attitudes and like how we're interacting. All of those things are what's driving outcomes so that we get outputs.
And we definitely feel like culture metrics will join safety, quality, financials on the scorecard. And when you think about this, when you think about outcome, that will help you get the type of metrics that you even want to see on a scorecard. I mean, how many times are we asked, like, well, what should we measure? What should we measure when it comes to culture, when it comes to food safety culture? What do we measure? And people are really only thinking about the output.
Hmm.
They're really only thinking about, again, my audit score, or these sort of outputs that come to us. But when we really think about what do we want to see in our culture, what is the outcome we want to get, then metrics start to fall into place, right? We want a culture of
Yeah.
belonging. What do your leaders need to do in order to get that outcome?
Yes. And, everybody's always thinking about what are leading metrics versus lagging. So
Mm,
this is the perfect place to lean in
yes.
because we're not just focused on the lagging metrics. We
Right.
need to think about these leading.
Mm-hmm.
It's if we want to retain talent, then are we making sure everybody's getting growth opportunity? Are we
Right.
making sure we're doing leadership development? Are
Mm-hmm.
like what are the things that are leading to people leaving? And then we need to work on the other side.
Right, right, exactly. And it doesn't mean that you don't put, audit outcomes and all of those things on there. Sure, that's absolutely fine. Just
Mhm.
know that that's your lag metric, right?
Yeah.
Like that's you're not going to be able to see that and then do something about it and change your outcome, right? It's really just an output of your process. I almost think about it as like we've been having a lot of conversations around engagement scores.
Mhm.
Like engagement scores is a lag metric. And I was having a conversation with someone about engagement scores and engagement surveys. And this person was like, yeah, and we don't even do them as often anymore. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Organizations have kind of moved to every other year when in the past they used to do them every single year. So now they're in even more of a lag metric because we put so much time in between them. Where that if you are seeing negative results on your engagement survey, you've already been in that place probably for a few years.
Mhm. Yeah. I think there's those broader categories like those big surveys, but you can also bring it back and be real just in your area.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I think that comes to mind is, when we have people in our programs, our goal is to get people all the way through their program, right? I
Mhm.
mean, we want to make sure that they are having a good experience. And the way that we do that, in part, is every time we have a session survey.
Right.
Like, we
Yeah.
don't wait till the end of the program to say, gosh, how did this work? Did it have impact? Did it have value? Did you
Yeah.
feel like it was welcoming? Whatever. Like, every time we get together, we're asking those questions to say, was it worth your time? Like, what
Mhm.
was your takeaway? We're
Yeah.
making sure along the way things are on the right path.
And the most important thing is we do something about it, right? Like as
Mhm,
people say, I want to talk more about this or have this going on, or this next topic relate to what I have going on because of X, Y, Z. We
mhm,
shift in order to talk about those things because, we want people to, like you said, have a good experience, get something out of the course, but it's also a part of this belonging when they're with us.
mhm,
Right? Like we want them to talk about relevant things. We want them to solve relevant issues. And we want them to be able to relate leadership skills to relevant work so that they can continue to practice even after the course. Doing something, once you have this information is so important. It's so important, right? Versus like the times that we keep asking the same questions over and over and we're not doing anything about it. Eventually people will
right.
say, well, you really don't care how my experience is.
Yeah. This is the classic. It's not necessarily where you're going, but like how you're getting there.
Yes. Yes.
So, really thinking about how you're getting there
Mhm.
is more important as we think about going into the next year as well.
Mhm. And that's how I kind of think about the difference between like output is like I'm just interested in the last number of it versus the outcome. How do we want to show up? Right? How do
Hmm.
we want our culture to be regardless of what the output is? And it really makes you think about, and we want leaders to think about as they go into 2026 is, do your metrics reflect what really matters? Or are they
Hmm.
just outputs that someone said you should put on your scorecard?
Right. Just measure these.
Right? Measure these things. It's funny, like when we talk to people about their metrics, they're like, huh, I never thought to measure that before. Well, this is what you're looking for, right? This is the type of culture you want to be. Measure that.
Hmm.
Measure that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Measure that,
Mm-hmm.
which really flows into our next shift as well.
Yes.
Because this one is really about people systems are
Yeah.
more important than heroics,
Yes. Yes. This is a really good one because it makes me think about firefighting.
right? How often do we hear people talk about we are so stuck in firefighting?
Mhm, mhm. And this
How
chaos,
often do Yeah, and how often are we like, how are people getting the message that they're being rewarded for firefighting?
right? Yeah, I mean, how many times do we hear the question or even the encouragement that people should participate in firefighting because this is how we learn,
Oh,
you know?
goodness.
And we
Be
do
it,
learn in chaos,
we
but we also
do.
learn when there is not chaos.
Yeah, and I think when you consider how to have our brains receptive for
Mhm,
learning and gathering, a fire typically isn't the spot.
right.
So, yes, we can learn, but just think how much more, like how deep and how broad and how lasting learning can be when
Yeah,
you do it with intention.
exactly. Exactly. And
Yeah,
how it helps you build your culture, right? Like if even bot like thinking about your body and the stress that it takes on when you are firefighting is not the type of culture that most people would say, yes, I want to be in all the time.
right. It feels like it used to be, this sounds horrible, but like almost trendy to be like, oh, I'm so busy. I have so many meetings. I'm so
Oh
this,
yeah.
like I'm so wanted. And it was really, I mean, when I think about where that fits with coaching, that's a lot, or even yoga. Y'all know I do a lot of yoga. That's ego. That is
Yeah.
our ego needing to feel important. And believe
Mhm,
me, my ego needs to feel important just like everybody else's.
mhm.
But recognizing when it's my ego flaring up versus, is this working for us? Is like our culture. Like,
Yeah.
a good culture is able to support people at kind of their core and that belonging and that they matter. And when we
Hmm.
do that, our egos don't have to flare up nearly so much.
Right. Right. Exactly. And really, we're at peace. Right. We're at peace when we don't have this chaos where we feel like our ego needs to flare. Right.
Yeah, and no longer, I think, once again, this might be generational, but no longer is that burnout badge something people are looking for. They
Right.
like the next
So,
generations
no, thank
do not value that. They're like, not the word I want.
No, no, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but one important reason is that we've kind of taught them not to.
Yeah.
Right? That the reward is not worth being completely burnt out.
No, the physical toll, the mental toll, the emotional toll.
Mhm, mhm.
People sit in that because that's what they know. And it's amazing how long we'll sit in something that's not good for us just because we don't know what the other side looks like.
Right,
That's
exactly.
why that's why I think when we consider our role as leaders, we need to help people move from that space because well, one, it's good for them, but it's also good for us.
Mhm, mhm, and it's possible.
It
I
is.
think sometimes people in our industry I think many people in our industry think that it's not possible, that we're always gonna have fires, that we're always gonna be in this chaotic state, but it's not.
Nope, nope, nope.
There's
No.
some cultures that's not in this chaos.
Right. And every time we go in a fire, how many times do people say, "Oh gosh, that could have been preventable."
Right.
Right?
Mhm,
Every single one is.
mhm.
And, what if we think about the amount of fires that we're fighting is really kind of like an inverse relationship to the strength of our systems.
Yes. Mhm. I
Like
think
if
it
you were,
is.
well, I'm sure there's data out there, I just don't have it at my fingertips to say if we're firefighting all the time, that means we have weak systems.
Right. Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
it's weak process systems, product systems, people systems,
Mhm. Mhm.
something is not working well.
Yeah, and we've seen it, right, in our experience. When we have systems in place that work, people, right, that's bought into the systems and they are closing gaps and helping it run smoothly, we don't see as many fires. And really, and it's not saying that there's not fires that come up, right? Like we learn there's things that happen, right? And we solve it, we get to root cause, and then we build a system around it to ensure we don't fall into that fire again. That's when you
Mhm.
know culture is working. Right? That's when
Yeah.
you know people are engaged and people people want to be a part of the solution versus like who fire put that out. Now let's move on to the next. Let's move on to the next. Let's move on to the next. If you find your people doing that, they're probably overworked and they're about to earn the burnout badge.
Hmm. Right. But those are things that as leaders in this industry, you cannot ignore because
Mm,
that is not a sustainable model.
it's not. It's not.
Firefighting is not sustainable. You all know that. It
Mm-mm.
wastes money, it wastes people's energy. Not
Mm-hmm.
sustainable.
Mhm. This is such an important topic. We include it in our leadership boot camp
Hmm.
where we spend time on a full module talking about firefighting and how to eliminate it. And how to start working towards stepping outside of really that heroics of I need to be involved to
Hmm.
do I need to be involved and how do I build systems around or put systems in place in order for these fires to not keep popping up.
Hmm.
I feel like if we eliminated firefighting in this industry, like I feel like 40% of the problems would be gone. I just feel like that there will be a huge slash of problems that we see all the time that will just be gone and people will feel very differently about the industry.
Yeah, I would I'd even bet higher than that.
Yeah, me too.
Really? Because if we think about all these fires are symptoms of systems that aren't working,
Yeah.
then the less fires we have, the more systems are working. So the
Hmm.
more
Hmm.
we're being proactive and all of that stuff.
Hmm. And you're right.
All
Our
of that
ego,
stuff. See how technical I am today on this Monday morning?
but you're right. Our egos are driving it. Like I need to be involved. I need to be a part. I need to be a part of this solution. Why, and even some cultures like have it set up where when this happens, Jill, because you are in this role, you need to go. why,
Hmm.
why? Just build a system. Right? Empower your people, empower the people that are there to get work done so that people don't feel like they're always in this urgent fire all the time.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many parts in here that we could go deeper on, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think even one of those, like every time in a workflow, you see like when this happens, stop, contact management. Like every time you see one of those, I would challenge you to look at why that is.
Right. Right. Yeah. And
Doesn't
some
mean that it's not necessary, doesn't
right.
mean it's not necessary, but
Mm-hmm.
way too
Mm-hmm.
often we see this happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're creating this false urgency
Mhm.
or this, this false fire when it really doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah, exactly. Like having to get others involved in the work that you do every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
So as leaders, as you're going into 2026, right, and you want to shift really to more people systems, think about, reflect on, are your leaders set up to scale or
Mm,
to break?
good question. Really good question.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that flows us into shift number 6.
Yes. Yes. This is one of my
Yeah.
favorites.
Yeah. Coaching mindset is a core competency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we also want to clear up coaching because everybody's coach these days, right? Everybody's like, "Oh, I coached here, I coached there. I'm a
Yeah.
leader, so I'm a coach." Like I'm training my dog right now, so I'm a coach. Like
Mm-hmm.
coaching is about not having all the answers.
Right. Yeah.
Coaching is about recognizing that people already have the means, ways, and knowledge to move forward from where they are. You just have to create space and awareness so that they can take that step.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not
So,
doing
well,
the work for them.
no, and it's not about telling, advising, I'm going to even say mentoring because this is about recognizing that we are whole and complete humans. And when
Mm-hmm.
we can do that and recognize that we're all whole, complete humans, like that in itself is going to set you apart as a leader and
Mm-hmm.
help you be a better business partner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because it helps you grow, and it also helps the people around you grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
The International Coaching Federation, ICF, in one of their stats that we have from 2024, teams with coaching style managers are 40% more engaged and productive. 40%.
Yeah.
Like, can you
And
imagine if you had 40% more engaged and productive people? Like, not just different people, but the people that you have are more engaged and productive.
mhm. Yeah, and that in itself is a skill set
Mm-hmm.
because we know people have always been rewarded for having answers, for being the
Yeah.
ones who raise their hand to do things, for being people who step in and save. We just talked about firefighting and heroics.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching really asks you to not do any of that,
Yeah. At all.
right?
Right.
No,
Step away from that.
which it's really hard because that's how people for a long time have felt that they can be helpful. And
Mm-hmm.
coaching asks people to be helpful in a completely different way, which for many people, and we see this even in our programs, is at first a bit uncomfortable
Oh,
because
yeah.
it feels like we're giving up control.
Yes.
And the reality is we never had control to begin with. We just finally are recognizing that we can approach this relationship a bit different and share that control, that power with others, because really it's both of us in this situation.
Yeah, I like how you said we never really had control anyway. We're just trying to
No.
hold on to something that is just not real, but also we're limiting our own growth and the growth of others around us.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
Yeah, and when we think about where we all want to go as businesses in 2026, like we need everybody.
hmm
Like
hmm
it is amazing what people can do when they have the right environment to do that.
Yes, yes. And when they have the right skills, right,
Mm.
in order to build this space of belonging, right, in order to coach, right, and shift into this coaching mindset. And it doesn't mean other things of giving advice and mentorship and those things are not important. They are, they're very
Mhm.
important.
In the
When
right space and time.
the right space, right, exactly. It's like having the right tools for the right job.
Yeah.
As you lead, one of the things that we just have forgotten is just how important it is to step into this coaching mindset. And I mean, I don't know if we've forgotten it or if it's just new information as science has advanced. But what we're learning is that we mentioned a few times is that the new generations are really demanding this type of style. And we will, I like the way the Mercer report put it a couple of years ago, where, organizations that don't get behind this will lose the war on talent, right?
Hmm.
They will not retain people. They will not have engaged and productive people because, like you said, the younger generation, they're not in it for burnout, right? They're not in it for to be talked down to or to live in the space where they don't feel like that they belong or feel like they're happy in. And coaching just opens that up, right? It allows you to lead in a different way because you're learning about the person versus inserting yourself into the
Hmm.
conversation.
Yeah, and I think it represents that kind of that ultimate shift from command and control to, I'm gonna say, autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that can be really scary because I think that what comes up is that question of like, well, if we just let people do what they want to do or what they think is best with what they know, like, is that really the best in all of our interests?
Right.
But this is why you're a coach, or a coaching mindset is what helps you guide people because those are the questions you ask. Well, if you take this action, is that an action that benefits you or does it benefit everybody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like these are things that you learn to ask so that you can guide people and also understand perhaps even where your strategy or where things aren't actually aligned and fitting.
Mhm, mhm. Exactly. It's about asking those questions.
Hmm.
And I think that also just relates to our first shift of belonging and why it's so important. And people, leaders who have this coaching mindset, have this space of belonging just because they ask different questions, right? And it's built around curiosity versus yeah, really like the command and control piece.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also like kind of this power differential as well. You
Mhm.
know, when you think of someone who's a boss, that inherently just feels like power differential.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you think of someone who's more of a coach, at least the way we define coaching, that's like, we're here together. It's just your
Mhm.
role is this and mine is that. And I'm just asking questions to help you move forward.
Right, exactly.
Like it's partnership.
Mhm.
And, that takes a really different mindset to step into as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is really insightful what you're saying because many, many people come to us and they're saying, I want to empower my people. My people need to have they need to feel empowered to make decisions. They
Mhm.
need more autonomy. They need to take ownership. It's impossible to do that if you're in a command and control environment.
Yeah. You
You
have
know?
to be willing to give up that power if
Mhm.
you want others to be able to receive it.
Mhm, mhm, and that's scary, like you said, to say, "I have to give up this control," or "I need to take a step back," or you might not be the only person making decisions,
Hmm.
and that's okay, right? Because you want your team to have authority, you want your team to have ownership, you want your team to feel empowered. That means you have to step back. We
Yeah.
talk about this in our empowerment workshop, right? Around this transfer of power. I almost think about it like energy, is not being destroyed or created. Energy it is what it is. And so if you want to shift it, I have to give up some in order
Mhm.
for it to go somewhere else because you can't create new one. You can't create extra energy. You have to shift it. And that's what
Yeah.
that's what it means to empower someone else, is to shifting that power from you to someone else. And that can be
Yeah.
scary, right? It can be done poorly if you don't have the right skills. But when you do have the right skills, it can be extremely rewarding.
Yeah. When I think about, this year we were asked to talk a lot about compliance to commitment.
Hmm.
It's probably, people have been hearing it all year,
Oh,
right?
yes.
This whole struggle of why does it feel like food safety or, insert other requirements? People just do them for compliance. Like,
Mhm.
we need better commitment. We need people to feel like we're doing, like, this represents who we are and how we show up every day.
Yeah.
And I I'm curious, Tia, out of all the 6 things we've talked about, like, is there one that stands out to you
Mhm.
as really powerful when you think about leaders who are trying to move from compliance to commitment?
Mm. I would oh, so many, all of these. But when I
I know, it's a trick question. No.
it is a trick question, but, I think that I'm gonna go with the first one of
Mm,
belonging, belonging really being a business strategy and how important belonging
mm,
is. Because one of the reasons why people are not moving to commitment is that you really just don't have that buy-in, right? People don't understand, what's in it for me, or what is the benefit that they have from it, or why should they do this when they have so much on their plate. And I'm not talking about the why that we lean into all the time in food safety of like, tell them the why it's going to hurt someone or why it's important, from that standpoint, which is super important and should be said. We should also say why it's important to them. Why should
mhm.
they care about these things? And that why could be very different than my why. And I don't think that you find out their why unless there's a sense of belonging.
Right,
And
because I'm not gonna share something so personal to me
exactly,
if I don't feel like this is the space that gives a hoot of whether I'm
exactly.
here next week or next month.
So once you can,
If I'm just hands to you to do some work, I'm
why
not
are we
sure
here?
that's where I feel like I'm committed to be here.
Exactly. Exactly. So I think it's the foundation of moving to commitment because, like you said, people don't share. They don't share their true feelings or true self if they don't feel like it's a safe space. And that's where we run into the piece of like, well, they comply, but we don't have this commitment of speaking up and solving problems. And, they're going to let it go down the line because it's not their job.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It
What
makes
about
me think of, um, well, it's hard to top what you just
you?
had. Um, but I think in part, something that can lead to belonging is really leaning more into this coaching mindset and human
Yeah.
skills and soft skills.
Yeah.
Like, I the other part is when we think about how to create the space where you are belonging, that's a skill. That's
Mhm.
something where when you think of where I am today, and you might be like, gosh, I feel like I already create that. Because if you would have asked me 20 years ago, I would have been like, well, yeah, I'm nice. Like, it's an open door policy. People can come see me.
Right.
That does not equate to people feeling comfortable to just pop in and see you.
Right.
So I would say really that part of kind of like the coaching mindset, like really
Mhm.
leaning into my role as a coach is really to connect more to like soft skills and hard skills together.
Yes.
And
Yes.
until I'm willing to really look at myself and go, how are people experiencing me as a leader? How are people experiencing the space that we have? I
Mhm.
think it will be hard to get to the belonging part.
Mhm. I agree. And therefore, you might not make it to the commitment.
Right. You're still going to be stuck in being like, I don't know. We're all so nice here. We all get along.
Mhm.
Well, you know what? There's more than just being nice.
Right. Exactly.
Like that's
Exactly.
been popping up, I don't know, for the past few weeks for me, like nice, nice, and nice. And you can tell probably by the way I'm even conveying it right now. Like I'm not loving the term nice.
Nice. Right now. It's true, right? Like I like to shift from like, nice to kind or nice to compassionate or right, nice
Yeah.
to belonging, where it really the other words really just stand in this place of letting people be who they are, letting them
Yeah.
express who they are, even if you don't feel like it's nice, right? Sometimes people are not nice. Sometimes people
Yeah.
have different thoughts or they need to get out, hey, this is what I think is wrong, and you can say it in a kind way, right? You can still be kind, you can still be compassionate. Those are the things that we want in people versus like just being nice.
I think nice feels like compliance. Like,
Yes.
it gets the job done, but it doesn't get you any further. I think that's
Right.
why it keeps annoying me when I hear the word nice lately,
Mhm. Mhm.
because
Yes.
people are longing for more than nice when they show up at work and in life.
Yes, I agree. I looked up the definition of nice because I'm like, okay,
Oh.
let me look and see what this says. So nice is pleasant, agreeable, satisfactory, fine, subtle. So it's like it's agreeable, right? Like if you're agreeable all the time, like we've been around those people that's just agreeable, and I just want to be like, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear exactly what you're thinking, like what's good, what's bad, what doesn't work, what like I want to hear those things versus like just being agreeable. I feel like that's the number one thing that I say to my team in the beginning is that you do not need to agree with everything that I say. I actually want you to disagree with me. I want to hear your thoughts. You know, especially as a leader, most of the time you haven't even worked in this space as long as the people that you're serving. So I know I don't have all the answers. I don't need you to be agreeable, right? I need to know. And I feel like that's why nice doesn't really sit well with me because like, you know, I am not the type of leader that I need you to say yes to everything that I'm saying. Otherwise, like, you know, I'm trying to make the right decisions and I know I don't have the best thoughts every time because I might not know everything. I don't know
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually really interesting as we think about like things, our whole show right now is right the 6 things that food leaders can't ignore in 2026. And that maybe even kind of sums a little bit of that up, like
Yeah.
being nice. Like if everything is nice, this is nice, that's nice.
Mhm.
That might be the theme to you don't ignore when you see nice in places.
Right, exactly. If you find that everyone is just being nice to you or just
Hmm.
being agreeable to you, you know,
Hmm.
or we were talking to someone last week and they're like, well, when we get into a room, everyone's like, yes, 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 let's move forward. And then when we get out, no one's doing anything, right? No one's executing.
Right.
To me, that reminds me of this nice. Everyone is agreeable, but when they leave the room, they're like, I'm not doing that, you know,
Yeah.
or I had the great intentions of doing it, but now I'm too busy, so I'm not gonna do it. Right? Like that's just you're being nice versus saying, "Hey, I think this is a great idea. What are some things that can come off my list to support it?" Or this is where I think that I'm gonna fall down, or this is where I need your support. Like that's more than just being agreeable.
Yeah, and I think that actually plays into all of our shifts because, you know,
Mhm,
belonging as a business strategy creates space so that you don't have to just be nice. People can share. Rise of the intentional generalist. Like if you're nice, you're just kind of like sitting in your space versus we
mhm,
need people connecting dots and thinking about cross-functional and, just more collaboration.
mhm.
If we're nice, we're okay with where we're at
Yeah.
versus we're looking for growth. Like, how many times do we talk with businesses that are like, I'm cool with where I'm at in a year? Like,
Right.
upskilling is culture. And
Yeah.
so we need to lean into that.
Yeah.
Um, Output to outcome.
Yeah.
Like, outcome requires us to have some more conversations about how we're getting there. Those
Mhm,
can't just be nice. I mean, it
mhm.
doesn't mean that they have to be unkind, just
Right.
means we have to be honest and truthful.
Yeah.
Thinking about people systems are more important than heroics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's nice when
Mhm.
people step in and help us firefight, but like we need systems that are built
Yeah.
so that we don't have to always be doing that.
Mhm.
And of
Mhm.
course, our last one on coaching mindset.
Ah.
Like we need to look further than the surface in
Mhm.
ourselves and in those around us if we want to have improvements and go
Yeah.
further.
Yes. So you know we are curious, and as you know, really walk away from today, think about what's one shift that you're ready to make and how you lead in 2026.
Hmm.
If you feel like you
Yeah.
can't do all of these, what's that one? That one
Yeah.
commitment.
And I think even to consider like these insight aren't just predictions. Like these are really invitations for you to look at where can you create more clarity? Where can you create
Mhm.
more connection? Where
Mhm.
can you be more intentional as a leader in 2026? because these things won't just magically happen
No, it
unless
won't.
you're intentional.
That's right. You have to
Hmm.
be. You have to be intentional about it.
Yeah. So, with that said, if you go on out to our website, catalystfoodleaders.com,
Hmm.
there's resources and there's a resource hub. Find that. There are multiple freebie downloads that can help you navigate through where you are today and what you want for 2026.
Hmm.
Yep. And, we just shifted the Leadership Summit date.
Yes.
So
Now it's
it's going to be April 8th. So
on.
we still do have the early bird promo though going through December 31st. So
Yes.
if you are like intentional about what you want to do for next year, sign up so that way you can connect with other leaders, get new perspectives and insights on helping
Mhm.
you move through that next year.
And ensure that you actually shift so that
Mhm.
this time next year, right, you feel like you are in a different spot and you are a better leader then in the future than you are today, and the impact, right, that you can make as a leader will be felt versus, you might be feeling a little bit on, maybe I didn't do everything I wanted to do, or maybe my culture isn't where it should be, or you feel like you're not really shifting at all in your
Right.
space.
Yeah, and leadership isn't done in a vacuum. It's not
Yeah.
a one person show. It's not done without interacting with others. And
Hmm.
culture certainly doesn't grow on its own.
No,
So it takes a system.
it does. And we appreciate that you have been here with us today. We really hope that this was impactful for you. And if you found that it was, and you're starting to think about these shifts, send this to someone that you know that is leading with purpose and with grit, and that really looking to be a different leader in
Mhm.
2026.
Make sure
Because
you subscribe and like the
yes,
show as well. That way you will never miss one.
you'll never miss us on YouTube and on your favorite podcast. Subscribe to us. And together, right? Together we can continue to grow, because we know when leaders grow, cultures change.
Absolutely. So thank you everyone for being with us for this
Yes.
episode.
Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye, everyone.